I've been contemplating making this video for a little bit now. Just as the title says, it's a touchy experience, but I'll just start by saying that, for one, not going to mention her name in this. It hasn't come to me needing to do that, so I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to try not to mention the direct sales company I was with, just because it doesn't really matter, because this situation was not the company's fault. So I would rather leave their name out of it. So with all of that said, on January 23rd of 2018, I started working in direct sales with a specific company. I chose this company because it was different than other direct sales companies I had heard of and come in contact with before. And I also wasn't sold on it completely until a friend of mine told me about who was going to be my future upline. I didn't know it at the time. They told me about this girl who would go live on Facebook and do these makeup videos, and she worked with this direct sales company. And the person who told me about her told me that they thought I would really like to watch her because she seemed a lot like me, and it just seemed like somebody I would really click with. So I started watching her, and I was like, there's something about this girl, like, yes, I'm going for it. Like, this sounds right, it feels right. So I messaged her, and I got started with the company, and she became my upline. Now, immediately, that first phone call, because with this company, before you officially sign up, they recommend like having a conversation with each other first. So she called me, and we had like an hour-long conversation, and it was just like, we clicked instantly. We were just like, from literally the first second, we were so close. And so I know when everybody's looking at this timeline, they're gonna be like, well, you didn't know her very long. But it felt like a long time, because from that first day, like, quickly it became a thing where like we were best friends, even though we lived in 2 different states. We were talking from morning to night, like texting. We were talking about like business stuff, but it eventually turned into like more personal stuff. Like, we vent to each other about things going on in our personal lives and stuff like that. And it just became a very good friendship. It felt right. Like, her and I would always say the same thing. Like, she'd always be telling me, you know, we just clicked from the beginning. Like, you're my girl. Like, you and I are gonna go so far together in this company, like more than anybody else on our team. Like, you and I just click. So, and I felt the same way. So I thought it was like perfect. I'm like, oh my God, I found a friend through this. Like, this is great, because I'm not somebody who has a lot of friends where I live. I just don't. I have a lot of social anxiety. So if I make good friendships, they're typically going to be through the internet. So that's where that was. And then, so again, I started at the end of January 23rd. Well then, so we're really, really close and everything. Her team is growing. She's starting to make a lot of money in this company. And I just think she's the best upline ever at this point, and she's such a good friend to me at this point. So in about mid-April, I don't know the exact date on this, I want to say it was like the 16th, 17th, she reached out to me, and she, you know, through texting you can send voice messages. So she sent me a voice message, and she was just bawling. And I'm not going to say what her personal situation was that she was crying to me about, because to this day, I just don't think that's my business to tell, so I'm not going to. But she reached out to me and was crying and telling me about this horrible family-related situation that she was dealing with. And I felt for her. It sounded horrible. In her voice, it was just like, I started crying when I actually heard her crying on the voice message, because I could feel her like heartache and her pain, and I was so sad for her. I like felt everything with her. She was angry, I was angry, she was sad, I was sad. Like, I just was so sad for her. So for a little bit, her and I were talking for like a few days, I guess. Her and I were discussing this issue in private, and she kind of took a break from the rest of her team. So she had me kind of, I offered, I think, either she said something, I think she posted in her team Facebook chat, we had like a group chat, and she was like, hey, if you guys need anything, I'm sure Brianna would be more than happy to help you. And I was all there for it. I'm like, yeah, I don't care if I'm not getting paid to help these people, like, you need to take care of yourself, and I will happily answer questions as I can for like your team if they have questions, so that she could just be unbothered for a few days and try to like mentally recover and get stuff together for her family. So she ended up calling me crying and all upset because I don't know how to say this without talking about her family situation, but basically there was, in addition to the family issues, because of the family issues, she was having some financial issues, and basically she wasn't going to have Wi-Fi. Now, the business we were in, it was all through going live. Like, most of your sales come from going live on Facebook, which requires Wi-Fi. So she had told me that her Wi-Fi and her cable were all on one bill. They're for a company called Comcast, which I don't have Comcast in Florida, but I knew it was like a legit company and everything. And so she had, like, she was just crying to me, telling me, like, I don't know how I'm going to run my business. Like, you guys aren't going to have a sponsor. You're not going to have an upline. If I don't have Wi-Fi, like, my whole team's going to crumble, and they're all, you know, everything's going to fall apart. I'm not going to have my income from this company anymore, and it's just going to further add to my situation. And she was crying and so upset, and she just kept saying, like, you're not going to have a sponsor. I'm going to kind of have to be MIA for a little bit because I won't have Wi-Fi. And so at the time, it just felt right, and I said, well, what's your bill? How much is your bill? And she told me how much she thought it was, and it was a lot more than I, like, in my head, when I asked her that, I had in my head had an amount of money that I could possibly loan her for like a week or two. And she knew that I wasn't like super up there with money. Like, we don't have the money to just like help people pay for their bills, because sometimes we struggle to pay for our bills, you know? So I had asked her, I said, how much is it? And whatever number she said was much higher than I had initially realized. I think it was somewhere in the 500s, and I was like, oh my God, I can't do that. I'm like, why don't you call tomorrow and see if they will take, I don't remember if I said $300 or $200. I think I said $200. See if they could take $200 and at least keep it on for like a couple weeks and like extend, you know what I mean? Like, at least keep the Wi-Fi on, even just the Wi-Fi, and maybe not turn on your cable or something. Like, see if you could work something out, because I've had to do that with bills before where I've been like, can I give you this much now and like this much next week or whatever. So I told her about that and asked her to do that, and she's like, sure, like, I'll do that. So she texted me like the next day, I believe, and said, because this was at nighttime that we had this conversation, and she said, I called them and they'll let me do 200. I tried to talk them down to doing 150, but they wouldn't take it. They said I have to pay at least 200. And I said, all right, I got you. You know, I don't have a lot of money, but like, I can make do with this as long as you pay me back as soon as you can. And she had said, now this was on April 20th is when I paid her Comcast, $200 to Comcast. And she had said to me that her fiance got paid this coming week, and I will for sure have the money for you next week. So her fiance got paid somewhere in the end of April, and she would for sure have the money for me then, have all of it. She didn't just say part of it, she said all of it. And then on top of that, she was picking up more shifts at the same job that her fiance had. It was a restaurant. And I knew which day she got paid from our company because I work there too, and we all get paid on the same day. So she was supposed to be getting paid on May 7th from there. So in my head, I'm like, okay, she said she's gonna get me the money back. I totally trust her. Like, she's gonna get me the money back next week, which, to be honest, like, I kind of said like, all right, yeah, next week, because I kind of needed it next week. Like, I couldn't go super long without having that money. I had enough to get me through, but it was at that point I knew I was gonna start needing like that $200. So So I had asked her that, and so I knew in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, at the very, very worst, I'll get the money on May 7th when she gets paid from this company, at the very, very worst. So this was April. Oh, and also at this point, our total, she had told me in a text message that our total group, this on April 30th, she told me in a text message that our total group, like team amount, so people from her and lower, her and her downline, we had done $2,700 about in sales for the month of April, and that May 7th paycheck was going to be from the sales in the month of April. Now, she should have, that should tell me that she did pretty, she should have gotten an okay check for the month of April. I had known what she got for the month of March paycheck, and it was really nice, but that was a really good month for like sales, indirect sales. They call certain months like more dead months than others, and March had been really good. April wasn't as good, but still she should have gotten a decent amount. So literally every day, and then when I was, so before I recorded this, I'm like, I'm gonna go back through my text message and screenshot everything I can. So I do have screenshots. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to put them. I'm not super good at editing, and I'm gonna be editing on my iPhone. So I'm hoping that I can put screenshots in as I'm talking about certain texts to show you guys. If I can't, I'll try to figure something out, maybe put a link in the description to like an album or something. I don't know, but I will have to sit there and cross names out and stuff, because like I said, I'm trying to be as professional as I can while also sharing my story. But anyways, so also at the restaurant she worked at, her and her fiance worked at a Mexican restaurant, and so I had said Limelight paycheck was May 7th. Well, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, was a huge deal, obviously, for her restaurant. Most Mexican restaurants like do something really crazy and are really, really busy on Cinco de Mayo. So she had told me that her and her fiance were going to be serving that whole time, so that they would have a good amount of money from there. Because once she didn't pay me that first week that she said she was going to pay me, she started like pushing out excuses. And I totally believed her. Like, I was not suspicious. And that's the thing too, like I said, I really want to show you guys a text, because you could see it in my text. I'm like, please just keep me updated. Even if you have to give me like 20 bucks here and there, like, just keep me updated. Like, that's all I ask, is to keep me updated. And I was such a supportive and good friend to her. And this is where I start to get a little emotional, because, and I didn't want to cry in this, but I don't get close to people. I don't. And this whole video isn't even necessarily about the money. It's about the fact that somebody that I trusted so much, and that I really loved her. Like, I got so close to her as a best friend. Like, I genuinely felt like she was my best friend. And I just feel really hurt. I'm really betrayed, and it really has made me kind of question my gut, because my gut told me this was gonna be fine. Like, I trusted her, so it's made me have to question how trusting I am to people, and that sucks. But anyways, so there were ample amounts of times that she should have had money, and she just always had. My phone fell for a second. I just thought that she was having like a streak of bad luck. I've had that before. I get it. But then she started kind of getting a little wishy-washy. She started getting really distant. And now, I don't remember when, but at some point during this, she had gotten another job too. So, because her excuse was that the restaurant she was working at just wasn't paying her. She wasn't getting any money. They were holding her paychecks, her and her fiance's, that everybody else in the restaurant was getting paid except her and her fiance, and that just stopped making sense to me. But again, I was supportive, and I always was like, okay, that really sucks. Like, they could probably get in trouble for that. Like, you should really call somebody about that, because that's not legal. Like, you can't do that. So she always had excuses, and she started getting really distant. And at some point during this, she had also gotten another job at like a, I don't know, it's not a store I have down south, but it was like a, I think it was like a grocery store, or like a, I don't really know what kind of store it was, but she was working retail somewhere. So she had that job as well. And she had told me also on May 28th, she promised to pay me with her first paycheck from that place. But anyways, on May 11th, finally, after I sent her a long text being like, girl, like, I want to trust you. Like, I understand you're going through some stuff, but like, it's been a bit and you haven't been keeping me updated, which is the biggest thing, is that she wasn't keeping me updated. And at this point, I was starting to get a little, I was just over it, because if she would have been talking to me every day, it would have been different. But she started getting distant from me. She started going days without texting me. She stopped replying to my text messages for like a good week. And so when I texted her on May 11th, I said, like, this kind of looks bad, because you've disappeared and you're not talking to me. You're not even friends with, like, you're not being like a friend to me right now. You're not here right now. And I also need to mention the whole big point of this too, that was a big red flag. She totally abandoned her team. At the company we were with, like, you need to kind of be in touch with your team daily. It's not like in compliance. Compliance is you have 3 days to respond to your team, but she was going past that. She was violating compliance. She wasn't posting in the group chats anymore. And the thing is she was always so attentive, and she wasn't anymore. So all of this is happening. She's not going live anymore. All day long on her Facebook, she's posting excuses. I'm sick. My son's sick. My fiance's sick. I'm sick again. Oh, I'm sick again. Oh, this happened. Oh, this happened. And things just weren't adding up, and things started to get weird, and she started acting weird. So on May 11th, that's when I said, like, all of this, you know, combined is looking kind of bad on your end, and I just need an update. Like, I just need an update. So she kind of freaked out, and she said, I know, girl, like, I plan on coming back. I know I've been MIA. I know I've been really weird. I can send you, she said, I can send you $60. And I was like, you don't have to send me 60 if you can't. If you can only send me 20 or 50, that's fine. I didn't send this just to get money from you right now, whether I need it or not. I just want to know where you're at, because I'm kind of bummed right now because you've been ignoring me just as a friend. Like, I want to make that clear too. It's not like every day I was messaging her, where's my money? Where's my money? I acted like that didn't exist. I would message her, hey girl, I hope things are going better for you. Or I'd talk to her about our company, or I'd talk to her about things in her life and see how things were going. Like, I wasn't bugging her all for the money. So that's why I finally had to send that on May 11th. And instead of $60, she did send me $70 to Facebook Pay on May 11th. And then that's all she wrote. She sent me that. We were okay for a couple days. At this point, my husband lost his job, and I had reached out to her and told her that, not to get money, but in my head, I'm like, maybe this will make her give me the rest of my money quicker, because I kind of need it now. I'm kind of stressing out. And yeah, no. At that point, she really just went MIA. As soon as I told her my husband lost his job, she not only went MIA for me, from the whole team. Her uplines couldn't get in touch with her. Her uplines were messaging me and messaging her other downlines and being like, where is she? Where did she go? She's literally hasn't had one sale this month. She's literally not doing anything with her business, and she's being really weird on her like posts on her Facebook, and things are just getting weird. And she's kept being MIA. And I was still trying to keep in touch with her, and I think the last time she really talked to me was on like June 7th or something, and she just went, it was like a one-word response to something. I asked her what she was doing. She said, oh, I'm doing this, what are you doing? And I said, oh, I'm at the park with my family. And she didn't reply, and it's been that ever since. So she still owes me $130, and it sucks. I grew up with my parents always telling me, if you ever let somebody borrow money, never expect it back. My parents have always done that for people. They give, you know, they've helped people pay bills, and then most of the time they don't get paid back. And that's just the way it is. And they've always taught me that you're still putting out good karma, being a good person, and filling up your soul or whatever. And it just has really taught me about trust. And my security blanket when I offered her that money was that she would never abandon her whole team of girls underneath her and this company that she just talked so highly about. And now since then, I've had people telling me that she's now like bashing the company and all the products, which I don't understand. But yeah, that's the story of my direct sales upline stealing my money and going MIA. I know some people are gonna say, well, you gave her that money. I did, but I gave her that money with the promise that I was going to get it back. So it's still stealing. If your neighbor borrows your lawnmower and says, I'm gonna give you this back after the weekend, and instead they keep your lawnmower, that's still stealing. Maybe you can't, you know, file charges for it, but it's still a form of stealing. And yeah, so that's what happened. And I don't know, oddly enough too, somebody tried to hack into the company I used a specific payment company to give us our paychecks, and miraculously that was hacked from the same region that that person lives. I can't confirm if that was her that did it, but it looks a little fishy. And if that's the case, that's a bummer too. So that's the story. Like I said, like you could see by my upset earlier, I'm still pretty hurt by it. It sucks pretty bad, but I'm moving on. And I have joined a different direct sales company, and I am in love with that. So all is good. Karma is real. I'm sure it'll come back to me. And yeah, that's just, I'm moving on. I'm moving on. My hands are clean, or whatever the phrase is. All right, I'm gonna hop off here, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.